Sure. Have roll call, please.
Shelley,
Yes.
Mahler,
Yes.
Walling,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Andor.
Yes.
Good job. Okay, need to have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mahler.
Yes.
Walling.
Yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Andor.
Yes.
Okay, there's two old business items. Item A is fiscal year 2027 budget work session number 3. So could I have a motion to open that work session?
Make a motion to open the work session.
Second.
Roll call.
Oh, we're good.
Okay. Lizzie, you want to start?
I'll start with the general fund and then you want to go into the capitals after that. Okay. All right, after the last work session, we were in a deficit situation, the general fund. We discussed some of these items, but we discussed at the last meeting, increasing the residential garbage rates by $2 and then doing some step rates in the commercial rate equaling about 30,000. We can look at increasing the magistrate fines and the parking and the park camping fees. That might be about 12,000. And then increasing the Mid-American gas franchise fees with JBS coming online. That's a pretty conservative amount, but with the timing of it, I'm not comfortable increasing it anymore right now. So that could get us up to $5,110,365. And then with the expenditures, the large increase, of course, is still that 95,000 in the landfill fees. There are some decreases. Police wanted a second sergeant position. If we hold off on that, if we cut back on some of the hourly time at the fire station, Misty had an idea to cut some 5,000 back on the contract services. She had more down, but I said no, we can't cut that much. Cut back a little bit on inventory supplies at the cemetery. If they don't use it that much, I think they can work with the park too. Cut back on some of the McCurry Center part-time wages, if we're going to be doing that construction. And then the 16,000 for the Pegasus Channel 12 payment, because they just aren't doing that much. They might have a channel on MediaCom, but they're just doing mostly repeats and things like that. It's just paying them $16,000. It's not reaching the taxpayers. It's just not a good use of taxpayer dollars. And then we could reduce the transfer out of the general fund to the tree removal fund. We'd still have about 100,000 left to be taking down like ash trees, but would reduce it about 60,000. With those, it would get us down to 5,109,000, and we have about $750 over in revenues. But that being said, there are some possibilities within the 2027 budget to increase the electric franchise fees with Guthrie County REC, because everything out of the industrial park is Guthrie County REC. The rest of the town, of course, is Alliant. Ben's been working with Guthrie County REC to start franchise fees out there, because the rest of the town has Alliant. They should have 2% franchise fees too. So when that gets approved, we could have the 2% franchise fees out there, and that would be another increase. 4%. Yeah. I forgot, there'd be even more, 4%. And then like Mid-American, I said, I estimated 20,000, depending on when JBS comes online, and then when the first payment is, because those are quarterly. And then Sven's also working on the buyout of some of the Red Lion solar panels. He's working with Terry to determine what our best option would be, and like, so we need to determine like what fund that would be in, if it would be in like road use or general fund, or one of the like town craft or one of those buildings. So if the city can generate those additional revenues, which we probably will, we can work with the department heads then at amending their budgets to give them, to restore the cuts that we have made. But you guys know me, I like to be conservative in my revenue. Just to make sure that we have enough to operate.
Suzie or Sven, either one, do we have an estimate of what those franchise fees look like at 4% if we were to get Guthrie County?
Ballpark-ish. Very rough, but it's hard. There's, what were there, 10 different lines on what makes up another Guthrie bill that we looked at, so we kind of just did some back of the napkin math of if this user is using this much simply on a kilowatt basis, what would this be? And it was relatively significant, where we would be very much in the black as long as that math works out. But certainly, I would guess even worst case scenario on how that math could work out. I would imagine that between Guthrie and then coming on Mid-American as well, I think we'll be fine. And Mid-American will not give out like a specific estimate for a specific account. So our hands are pretty tied there. So, you know, I think between just the increase with ADR and JBS on the gas side will be pretty good, just based on their estimated usage. And again, just the guesstimates that we've kind of been looking at, but establishing that franchise fee with Guthrie will really be the thing that sets us up well. Cool. And I believe Dewey is going to be working with Guthrie's attorney to figure out who's doing the draft, and then as soon as we get that figured out for the franchise agreement, I think there's public hearings and things we'll have to go through to get that set up, but should be able to get it on well before both of them are online, at least around January 1st. So overall, I think Suzie and I feel comfortable based on that, but still just want to be very cautious with moving into that and having a decent idea, but not knowing exactly what we'll be looking at.
And we talked to the department heads too, and you know, they know that we want to like restore their budget to the full amount, you know, when we get these increases, but we're just afraid that I don't want to budget for that right now without having it in hand.
So you have made budget cuts in each department?
Yeah.
And then,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
questioning the police department. And it says the promotion for sergeants, how does that work there? It says decrease, you want to bring in another sergeant, and what would be the purpose of bringing in another sergeant? Is it a retention thing?
So typically, department our size, it's basically me and Alex. He's a sergeant currently, I'm kind of the administrator. And we would like to promote another sergeant just for more supervision. Over the years, we've had anywhere between 4 sergeants and 3. So from when Chief Brickner was here, we had the chief, the lieutenant, and 2 sergeants. And then when Eric took over, it was the chief and me being one of the sergeants, and then we promoted Alex to a sergeant. Well, actually, prior to that, we had Matt Ashwegan was a sergeant. So we've always had a minimum of 3 support, or I should say administrative staff, or what's the word I'm looking for? Supervisor staff. So with having 16 employees, it's really hard for just 2 of us to handle all the duties that come with that. So yeah, so we wanted to promote another sergeant.
When we go back to Susie was saying, generate the additional revenue. We can go back and revisit this.
And it wouldn't cut anybody's wages, just wouldn't allow for a promotion until we get kind of closer to see where our revenues are at. I mean, hopefully we'll know like maybe after, July, August, somewhere in there, but just right now, we don't know for sure.
So, what about the revenue from, or the expense from Molly's old position? Are we anticipating needing that for contract services to help do the
Yeah.
work she was supposed to do, or?
About 40,000 of that just for contract services. Because we'll probably need, engineering and other kind of professional services, and that is included in there.
Okay.
And then, again, pretty conservative number on buying out solar would be about $20,000 in savings. So from the spreadsheet we have from Redline Renewables, we just need to kind of fine tune that of exactly which ones we want to buy out to hit the general fund the best.
So basically that's spending some capital money in to.
Yep,
Buy
so,
out the,
yeah.
and then
so-
we get the savings instead of paying it to them.
Correct, so, with the Alliant Energy, customer hosted solar program, we receive, is it about $36,000 a year in our lease
For what?
for the Alliant Solar?
I know, about 48.
48. So for the last few years, and since we established that, we've been putting that into a sustainability fund. Just for whatever projects, but knowing in the back of our minds also that we're gonna want to be buying out our Redline Renewables lease. So that's kind of been planned, and by July, we'll have about $250,000 in that sustainability fund. So looking to utilize that to free up money in the general fund. So
How much of our solar would that allow us to buy out?
about $20,000 a year more. He provided 3 or 4 different options. Just kind of adding up different array buyouts. So I think there was 4 to 6 in each scenario, depending on which ones we go at. That would be another, again, conservatively $20,000 of savings. That once we get a better idea on figuring out exactly what that savings is, we'll go back and look at the budget as well.
So this is all good. The only question marks we have are things that could put us further in the black.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then when we have these question marks answered, then we can go back and look at alleviating the cuts and putting that back.
Awesome.
To the department.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for your hard work, Susie, especially in department heads for making some tough decisions, I'm sure. So,
So that's the general fund, and then our levy rate will still be the 17.91, because this year we're going to still levy the benefit fund at that little higher rate, so we can get rid of that deficit that we have in there. Due to some higher rates in some other years. Then the next meeting, we will have the 5:30 meeting to approve the property tax hearing, and then we'll go into the 6 o'clock meeting, and then you will approve you'll set the public hearing for the budget. Public hearing to approve the budget certification at the next. After that.
What effect is the decrease in the Prairie Center? What is that gonna cause closure at the curve? Oh, that's gonna, when it's under construction. That's what.
Yeah,
That's not gonna affect you, John. A lot of unknowns as far as timeline, but full disclosure, we'll have to pay off all the lifeguards. Then we looking at the public library cutting $5,000. We're gonna be,
Yeah.
what are the contract services that the public library is paying out in?
Microphone.
Jim did. Oh, Jim did, yeah. So we do a bunch of our contract services would be like any of our expenses that are like copiers. And then I do subscription to like our automatic like library operating software system. We also have radio contracts. We have different contracts with different suppliers as far as like Adventure Pass communities. So we do one for like Science Center. There's a host of, there's a big chunk of them. And so with those, a lot of those, I can look at another fund that has anything to do with the city that I can utilize to pay for some of those services. But yeah, we'll be good. Yeah.
And then like Susie was saying, when these additional revenues in the fiscal year come back, what is the priority? Okay, so we're gonna look at the police department first, fire department second. Is there any gonna be any priority? It's just up to the department here to come in and say, hey, when that money is available to get that.
I would prefer to look at like wages first. And then go into like other, like the contract services and other tangible items.
Thank you.
The discussion on that?
Franchise fees out at industrial park. All of those entities out there paying into. these-
So,
that-
yeah, so currently for gas, they would all be paying franchise fees because it's all Mid-American, just like the rest of the community. But as Susie mentioned, they're pretty weird service territory lines as far as the Alliant Energy territory we have and the Guthrie REC territory. So right now, I don't think anybody out at the industrial park is paying electric franchise fees through Guthrie. They will be once we get that franchise agreement in place with Guthrie. So.
Those that are on Mid-American are already, or on,
Yep.
they're Alliant, they're already paying.
Mid-American Gas
Mid-American
is
gas.
already established, so that's just automatic, but for whatever reason, you know, historically as the industrial park developed, it was never implemented on the Guthrie side. So now we've been trying to work with Guthrie to get that established, so.
Move on to the capital.
So there's a 2-page list here. We can go through individually on line by line or just kind of do an overview, but I know bigger items with the rec center and the pool, I think it was estimated that that's probably $2 million for the filter and the ceiling and contract services. Last we discussed, is that right? So
What is the color coding on this?
so green would be funded items. Red would be not funded items, and then yellow would be kind of more of a funded or have additional questions type of thing. So
And blue?
blue should only be that pool and then the drain and clean pool, which would be a bond. So that $2 million is farther to the right under the bond, and then like farm truck would be under the loan section, which was not a wide enough column when printed, but and then so I think big thing would be moving forward with that bond for the rec center, and seeing how that pencils out as far as how long we want to have that bond be. And then just kind of going through each department, trying to prioritize the regular annual things and the need to have things. I think arm truck is expensive enough. We would do a shorter term loan for that, like we have for garbage trucks in the past. And then the end loader could possibly be a bond. I think it'd be appropriate to do a little bit more. What's that? You want to go through line by line?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the first page, for the hotel, had a conversation with Nate, and I think he was comfortable that the boilers at the hotel are functioning and they've been doing a lot more maintenance. So that's something we can hold for this year because they haven't had issues with the boilers. It'd be more of a preventative maintenance type thing. The kitchen hood is something that we've talked about for a while. I want to say, I don't think we fixed the Ansel system, but the fire suppression system needs some work. And then currently the exhaust for the kitchen hoods go from the kitchen back over to the main building and then snake through 3 floors and exit on the roof of the hotel. And they really have no access availability to get in and clean that properly. So this would be taking those vents straight up through the roof of the kitchen, which is kind of that lower addition on the west side. So very cleanable, maintainable, and get some better ventilation through the kitchen. And then the walk-in freezers. This would be a part of the thought process in this is right now, the 2 freezers, their refrigerator, walk-in fridge, and then the walk-in beverage cooler all run off of the big chiller tower and the chiller downstairs. So this would be separating those from that system so that the chiller doesn't have to run year round to keep up those. Because, that's a lot of wear and tear on the chiller and the tower. And then hopefully that would be some cost savings on the electric side to reduce overhead expenses too. And I think there's been some maintenance issues with that system. So that was one of the things that Nate wanted to replace.
Big is that walk-in? Bought a lot of walk-in freezers in my life. I've spent $100,000.
So this is 4 of them.
Okay,
And
that makes more sense.
Yeah.
so 4 units, and it would be basically replacing the condenser unit and I don't know, is that the head inside as well, John?
And the chiller,
So the structure stays, we're just replacing the condensing unit inside
Correct.
each one. Okay.
Well, more so installing condenser units, so there will be some re-piping and things like that, because these will be 4 individual units set up outside rather than everything running off of that chiller in the basement.
but did you do a comparison on what it would cost? How much you would save doing this by spending $100,000? Versus leaving
I'm
it
not-
as is.
I'm not sure, that's John, do you
The
know?
chiller has to run all winter long for keep, coolers working. And then that chiller system is super old and outdated. It takes a lot of maintenance to help keep that chiller tower that's out there. Holding tank is actually under the sidewalk and it's under the alley out there. So it's like an open pit water source. It's super outdated, so new high efficiency chiller systems for those walk-in freezers gain a whole bunch of efficiency, and then we don't have to run the chiller all winter long. I don't know the savings behind that, but it'll be substantial.
And it's still working.
Yeah, a lot of issues though. Most of the call outs, hotel, or maintenance, revolve around those.
How much is the ball? How many times? 6 times a year, 8 times a year?
Oh, more than that. Yeah, it's over a dozen at least, you know, it's monthly, almost bi-weekly.
50,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, he just went out there, the chiller right now has 2 circulation wells on it, and one just shut out. So all tripped out, it's 80 degrees, having issues there. Just wore out equipment.
The amount of time Nate spends at the hotel is time he doesn't spend in all the our other city buildings, like the rec or the library or here.
Any other questions? Okay. For the rec department, they requested Gator, I think, you know. In all of these, we have to cut somewhere, so, you know, being able to utilize a park skater to do that maintenance or just drive there, I think we'll be able to manage until we can add a gator if we want to. Adding the infield groomer, which I don't know, John, would this replace a couple of groomers that are currently out there?
All of the 3-wheeler bunker rakes that are currently used to maintain the baseball field are not the city. They are currently owned and maintained by baseball and softball association. This groomer itself, and they're not really for baseball field grooming. This machine will give us the ability to properly maintain the baseball field at a much higher level than what they're currently at. The idea would be that we would essentially take over fine tuning of the baseball field so that volunteers aren't out there bunker. I mean, we go into a long conversation about field management. This will aid in the longevity of our baseball.
And this also has a bunch of different attachments to do different pieces of that maintenance, so it's not just a 3-wheeler that pulls a drag. There's a whole list of attachments, so like John has said, I think kind of bringing up the level to which that's maintained. New lobby furniture in the rec center.
Badly.
Again, doing the pool renovation and tying in the drain and clean would be part of that bond. And then the other cut was the bike storage building. Cemetery requested a gator / plow rotation. I think it's low enough hours. We can probably manage a little bit longer with that. But we are going to do our regular rotation for the mower.
How many chairs we gave for 6,000?
I'm not exactly sure on the full number. There, Joe, but
Is it
it'll be to
all
try to
lobby?
be like for like. A little bit.
Probably 30 of them. Like 30 chairs.
And this, I assume this is those chairs and the furniture over by the pool.
This is specifically for viewing of the.
Okay.
We have reclining chairs now.
For the maintenance department, Nate and I had a pretty lengthy conversation last week, but for the maintenance van, we're gonna look at budgeting for a used van. You know, Stivers, where we get most of our vehicles, they get quite a few trade-ins, so we'll be able to watch that. And find a good used van. Nate felt pretty comfortable with that. Spent a lot of time talking with him about the cleaning equipment. We were able to cut that in about half with, you know, being able to get kind of one of everything tested out and then see what we would need to add or could add in the future as far as, you know, really seeing how much efficiency each of those things contribute immediately, and then again, kind of seeing how we can add over time. Then looking at getting a used forklift from Van Wall, they have quite a few trade-ins, so working with them on that. And then just holding for a little bit on that.
Was this
side.
forklift being inside or outside?
I think inside, outside, tires.
We have all gravel parking, so anytime unloading anything out of my truck, you have to be able to go on the gravel.
Okay.
Any questions on maintenance? For parks, I think for the brush hog, we can keep sharing with Public Works. Public Works has a brush hog and the airport has a brush hog. Looking at doing that gator rotation, that 1585 mower. I think the hours are a little bit lower on that, so we can probably wait on that. It's a little early for its rotation. The disc mulcher for the skid loader, again, just wait for another budget year. Then our annual green space development money for parks and the cemetery, and then the ball field fence replacement for, I think that's 2 fields worth. And then also the pickleball court design, but just having it there of looking at additional funding options and making sure we have a full picture of, you know,
Where we're
what
putting
will
it.
it cost once we get the design, things like that. Library, pretty usual things like Misty went through, but our budgeting for that air conditioner condenser replacement, I think it's probably number 2 on the call outs for trips and issues. Then garbage department, the regular tire replacements throughout the year. And then we'll be looking at that shorter loan for a new arm truck. Then the plow truck, I think either way, it has about an 18-month lead time. So I think for now, we can look at getting that transmission fixed and then circle back to that. At least it would be worth more in the future with a functioning transmission and shelled out transmission. And Public Works Gator, I think for highway stuff, from a safety perspective, I feel more comfortable having a pickup truck out there that's just more visible. And then as far as spraying, we continue to work with between Public Works and Parks to use the Gator and spray rig that's already set up in the Parks Gator to do downtown and parking lots and things like that. The end loader, I think I'd like to see if maybe Ziegler can come up and do an assessment to get an idea of, you know, what condition it's in, and, you know, maybe a more in-depth estimate on trade-in. Kind of depending on that, you know, we could wait a year or look at adding that to an equipment loan something like that. The brush bucket would work on our current end loader and a new end loader, so we can go ahead and get that. And the reserve fund, it's not really something we've done in the past for similar things, so not looking at that. Annual concrete repairs and then the crack sealing project. Wastewater is a little bit of a different hat because it's a different fund than what we have in, you know, our local option sales tax, which is what all these others are. So I think for the most part, we'll be moving forward with everything. Just want to make sure that things are in the appropriate categories and for operating expenses versus like capital project expenses, and then making sure that these numbers will work out with our cash flow that PFM does for us. So looking at moving ahead with those as long as cash flow works out. Probably be, I think we need to, before July 1st, do a new set of rate analysis and adopt rates for 4 or 5 years. So that'll be part of that conversation with PFM. Airport, looking at doing the tailgate spreader for de-icer and the concrete floors and the T-hangers. I think that T-hanger concrete has kind of been a regular thing. Also helps just kind of elevate the level of those hangers, and as people move out, we can reevaluate hanger rents and things like that. The planning and zoning cleanup costs were already in the spreadsheet breakdown to get to our total available, so that was removed. And then remove the marble on the 3rd floor. Fire department, the air packs and bunker gear are kind of in that category of we just need to or have to keep things current and kosher as far as what we have our firefighters in. And then looking at trying to get that ranger for grass fires for the fire department, but want to look at what grants are available and things like that to help reduce that cost. And then police department, I think biggest kind of variable would be the portable radios. Chief and Sergeant Lotz are working on applying for a grant through Motorola. It's a Motorola Lexipol. Okay. So that grant is due in April, but that grant would cover the entire cost of the radios, both for the portable radios and the in-car radios. So what we're doing is budgeting for a 3-year rotation so that we can kind of like not have that all as one cost in 1 year this time, and then as we rotate into 10 years from now, as those need to be replaced, we can be on more of a rotation with those radios. So fingers crossed that we would get that grant to do everything, but kind of as a fallback, we would have money budgeted to start that rotation. And then looking at the K9, I think that's part of a larger conversation as far as council wanting to move forward with the K9 program. But from conversations, I think 15,000 would cover upfitting the patrol car to be able to have the K9 in there. And then getting the accessories. On top of that, we also still have about $3,000 in the K9 fund from when we previously sold the K9. So that would be on top of it. And then I'm sure Sergeant Lott and Chief will be looking at grants for that as well. So I think there's a grant for the cost of the dog, and then there's another grant for the dog and possibly some training. So hopefully most of that cost is covered. They've already been out looking for grants and donations towards this. So that might be another little bit of a question mark depending on what outside funds we're able to get for that project specifically, but I don't know what further conversations want to be or need to be had as far as the K-9 program, having separate approval, or I'm not sure if we've ever done what we've done in the past to kind of officially give the green light to restart that or not, outside of just
I'd have to look. It's
budgeting.
been a while.
So, but
Kelly option number totals here are about the same as what we have for this year, or
so just at the bottom, that top line is all of the total requests. And then what we have available for both local option and local option maintenance. And then from the totals from each of the lines are kind of the balances. And then the estimated fund balances are estimated as of the end of the current fiscal year. So just to show that we still have a decent balance in both of those funds just for emergencies and things like that.
No, we get 3 million a year. We don't spend all of that on capitals because off the top, 20%, that goes to the local option maintenance, where some of that maintenance comes out of. And we have debt that comes out of there. We have like project costs that have to come out of there. So that leaves what's available to.
okay, but I mean,
spend. Yeah.
similar to this year, so
Mhm.
we'd hope it'd go up a little bit.
Well,
but-
yeah, we have to pay, there's a couple projects we need to pay off, but.
Just curiosity, all of the requests in here are for gators, with the exception of the fire department. What's Polaris? Is there a preference there? What's the difference in it? Anybody?
I think the Rangers are a little bit larger as far as size. I believe they want like a crew cab, whereas the regular gators for parks and cemetery are just a 2.5 seater for adults. Also payload, things like that.
Talking to them for ground clearance and you know, then.
Just curious.
Think either now or in the future, I think probably more of a inside policy thing of exactly where that ranger would be driving and getting to a fire. I think best thing would be to have it on a trailer behind a vehicle to get to the location and then be able to pull it off and pull into a field or something like that. So
Makes sense. And they've got a trailer.
I'm not sure if they have a trailer yet, but that would be an additional thing at some point. Or if they're able to get grants, maybe the association could buy a trailer, but I think really the only truck they would have right now to pull that would be the grass truck over in Dawson. So that'll be a conversation as well. It might, but it might be hard to see the back of it.
Back it up. Back it up, it's fine.
Back of it.
So
Well, I would like to have just the council's blessing to go ahead and publish. Get the public hearing notice published, because I have to have that done by Friday in order to get the publication date we need. So just make sure like you're all okay with the $2 increase on residential garbage, and then the additional 30,000 by step for the commercial. Is everyone okay with that? And then, just looking at increasing the, Mid-American Gas franchise, or like the increased Mid-American Gas, which I guess is not really anything you could, they're the same, it's just coming online, and then some of the decreases in wages and removing the Pegasus Channel 12 payments from the budget, everything. Do you have any issues with that? If not, I'm gonna go ahead and create the public hearing notice for the meeting.
You need a motion or
No,
You have,
Sounds
I
good.
just need direction, yes.
You have our blessing.
Yeah, give me a high five. There we go. It's official now.
any further discussion on the budget?
We're just always kind of living fluid document as.
It really
as the
is.
Situation dictates.
Thank you all for your hard work and getting that
Yes,
completed.
thank you,
Yes.
yes.
all of you.
Okay, we'll move on to item B, which is discussion possible action on providing notice of withdrawal to the Iowa Governmental Health Care Plan. We discussed this a little bit at our last meeting. There was going to be some more employee discussion on this, and so I'd like a motion to open this discussion. Roll call.
We're good for discussion.
Okay. Okay. We had some further meetings and what employees are okay? Do they have issues? Do they have?
Susie or Liz were in the meetings more, and I feel like departments, the employees that showed up got questions answered and things like that, so. You know, if individual departments, department heads want to, if you've heard anything more, but. Is there something else? So,
So we're taking on the new.
but this is just notifying the current trust that we're in, that would be withdrawing, but I don't think we have to take official action to approve the new plan until the end of the month, right?
The end of April.
I believe so.
Susie's gonna make me say something. Just because you have an overall change, doesn't mean things that are covered now will be covered. So there might be employees that could potentially have issues.
That don't realize it based on the meetings or questions that were asked currently, is that?
It just depends. I ask questions, so I know I'm going to be affected.
But we're not great.
Well, what would be the reason for the switch?
It saves the taxpayers a substantial amount of money.
It's not.
I don't want to say that I think it's a better or worse plan for everybody. I just think just because you're covered now does not mean you're going to be covered. It's because it's insurance. It's a gamble. Like, I mean, it's the same thing with your home and property insurance. It could be a gamble.
So do you,
Others saying about this.
Well, I think,
Other towns, they going to this new.
yeah, I mean, we got references back and it was good references. And I think everybody's just really happy with it. It's just health insurance affects each individual person differently. So, you know, when you look at an overall plan, yeah, it looks great, but it carries the potential to affect each individual person differently. But as a council, my opinion is you can't make a decision based on one person. Like, that's not responsible for taxpayer money,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion.
So the overall city employees, were they in on the potential to change plans? Potentially create some. Whether everybody was in on it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had the
Everybody
opportunity
had
to come to
voice.
the meetings and talk and do their own research. But like I said, I mean, I think everybody on the council knows I'm a very kind of obsessive compulsive person, so I'm going to research everything to the 11th hour type deal. I can't guarantee you, Joe, that every single employee has done that. And at the end of the day, when you're dealing with things that are prior approvals, you have no way of knowing for 100% that something's going to be approved or denied until you get the new insurance, you go through the prior approvals with your individual doctor.
Which, how many employees could be, how many different?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll pay less for it.
Mhm. I wouldn't say I think it's less coverage. It's just. I think I understand everybody's concerns with things.
Let me do my medical pharmacy background here. So basically, drug companies or health insurance companies can change their formularies every single month if they want to. So even with this plan that we may or may not go to, it might have a covered drug on it right now, even without a prior authorization. And then come, September, they might change their formulary. So that's why Liz was saying that it's not a guarantee. There's no guarantees when it comes to insurance companies.
Yes.
So is that right?
Yeah. Like you think you're looking apples to apples, but you might not, there's no way of knowing because it's so specific to each individual person. And for family, it was like around $80, I think. Yes. Right?
I think
Like
less.
Yeah. So you're paying your health insurance premiums that the employee pays is about $80 for a family plan. And Alex left. I don't remember what it was for a single.
So significant.
In your opinion, do the savings justify? Which?
I just have a
Sure.
really, I just have a really unique situation, Jeremy. So, I mean, from the meetings I sat through, like it sounds like a great plan and policy, and I don't want to say that I'm not in support of it. I just, true to my fashion of luck, have likely found a loophole. And I'm not going to say other employees aren't going to find the same thing, or they might find something like Misty was saying. They might find something on the plan now that's not covered that could be covered on the new one. Like, you can't look at it from an individual perspective. That's why it's called group health insurance.
How often do the employees switch plans?
It's reviewed annually with
Every year?
every year.
Switch. Plans.
Yep.
So if it ain't.
Yeah, but as I don't know if you want to speak for Skip, the Health Partners is very conservative in picking like plans to pick up, like groups to pick up. So they aren't just going to randomly pick up somebody. They want to pick up people that are like going to stay with them for an extended period of time. They're not the type of, I guess, insurance company that's going to lowball you on year one to get you in the door and then raise your rates a substantial amount. You'll probably see a market.
Oh, we've been
Standard
with
increase.
Blue Cross for quite a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you guys have been on this plan.
10, 12 years.
No,
Oh,
it's been longer
longer than
than
that.
that. It's been about probably close to maybe 16, 18 years.
As long as I've been on.
This is the first year that I've been. Substantial.
Last year you had 0.
Yeah.
With Wellmark, with your health insurance, but that again was the industry standard, I believe. Nobody had increases across the board. And this year is still substantially low. I think you normally see anywhere between 8 to 12%.
Yeah, plus a lot of times we can buy down our increase because when we do our self-funding, we usually don't use it all. Because it's kind of, the self-funding is kind of like a gamble. You put it in, you don't know if your employees are going to use it or not. So at the end of the year, you might have a balance. Your employees might use it. So it's just always kind of a gamble. So if you have a good balance left, you could use some of that to pay down your next year's increase.
Have all of the employees been properly notified?
I would lean on the department heads to answer that.
Every single one of my staff members that happened.
What was the feedback? Go with it, don't go with it?
I gave them the information going on.
Those meetings were last Tuesday.
There was an initial group meeting 3 weeks ago. Roughly 3 weeks ago, with a sampling of employees from different departments based on directions from department heads. And then from there, we kind of took a tally, or I don't want to say a vote, but like, are you in support of, are you not? Still had several questions on some things. So that's when we had the second round. We held meetings specifically for the police department and the public works department. Asked all employees to come in for those. And then we had an open period for some of the other departments that didn't have quite as many questions, essentially. So the library, the rec, parks individuals were, permitted this time to come in and talk to the representative one-on-one. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for any of the departments as far as what,
Nobody in my department has had anything against it. We've been using Skiplo for, a long time. And I mean, it was his recommendation that we explore and look into this new thing. And if you can compare apples to apples, it's very similar to what we have. So yeah, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be very many negatives with it at this point. So, and I think Skip did a really good job. He's always led us in the right direction the years that we've been dealing with him. So yeah.
I agree with it. Skip has been around a long time, and he's always done his best to represent us. He thinks it's in our best interest. And I'm sitting here, not hearing anybody really speak against this. And nobody's contacted me that, please don't approve it, so.
I'll just give you my 2 cents. Over the years, Blue Cross Blue Shield has done a wonderful job of creating a brand. Go anywhere, everybody knows and heard of Blue Cross Blue Shield, kind of one of those shields that you can hide behind and you feel pretty bulletproof. Not a lot of people have heard of Health Partners. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And yeah, you're gonna save some money. They're probably the same. Will some providers balk at it? Probably. Whether or not you're wanting to go away from a really well-known branded insurance company to something that's not as well branded. It could be though. So it could be as good.
So John, people in your department have been made aware of this.
Yes, yeah, everybody's fully aware of what's going on. Yep.
They answered all their questions.
Yep. Oh, you bet.
They have been given the opportunity to ask as many questions as they would like. Yes. And been given contact information to reach out individually if they so wish.
All of them have probably investigated as deeply as Liz has. They've all.
Yeah, that would be a for sure thing.
So I Josh, your department has been notified.
So yeah, absolutely, yes. Liz did a really good job of letting everybody get together and stuff, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the public works guys are the ones that had a ton of questions. And I think exactly what John said. I think that's the question is, Wellmark is, it's the Cadillac, getting a Chevy Cadillac, and you might be going to another Cadillac, we just don't know. And I think that was the biggest thing with the employees was, are we giving up something for,
Yeah.
$80 a month.
Yeah, a Ford Focus, I guess, I don't know, I don't know.
But from the
My
hospital
wife works
standpoint,
for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
being on that
She looked over the
board,
plans for us, and it seemed like, stuff was good, I'm on specialty stuff, it's probably gonna affect me. I'm gonna have to, pay more and stuff, but it's not based on one person's decision. So, but I think that was the big thing is that some of the guys were worried about, you know, losing the name brand. That was, other than that, indifferent, so. I'd say.
So,
And then the one that benefits really is the town by saving $80 per.
Well,
That's
yeah,
employees.
as the, that's just
Stay.
as the employees, then you also, like Susie said, you have the benefit of the lesser, because we're actually saving 11.55%. That sound right? That sound right?
It'll save us about 100,000 this year.
Yeah, which means in the future, once we clear that deficit in the benefit levy, then the benefit levy has the potential to decrease, which then in turn lowers your overall levy rate for property tax.
Appreciate you all making decisions.
Yeah,
Making sacrifices.
appreciate Skip,
Yeah,
that
Skip did a really good
investigating.
job.
You can't look at it, like, it's later on.
Yeah.
okay, do we want to have a motion to approve giving the notice?
I make a motion that we approve giving a notice.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Okay, we need roll call on this one, right?
So I have Walling.
Yep.
Mahler.
Yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Andor.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion on this item? That being no further business, we will adjourn, and a reminder that we will start at 5:30 next Monday for a
5:30.
special meeting.
Yes, 5:30.
Good, I believe it.